So since we don't have a lot of time, we just have 5 minutes, so I decided instead of giving one talk, I'll give you 2 talks. So you're really getting the value of the 10 minutes within 5 minutes, because this is actually a double-headed talk. So, there are many bugs out in the wild. And when you go out in the field, you want to find them. So I'm going to tell you about what I learned about hunting bugs when I go bug hunting, and the things I teach my children. The first things I taught my children, it takes about 5 minutes to teach my kids, and I'm sure it will take about 5 minutes to teach you as well. So there are many things that hide underneath rocks, right? And hopefully, if you're a very good developer, you're not necessarily a very good entomologist, so I'm sure you'll all learn something. Right, so the first rule that I teach my children is when lifting rocks, never ever stick your fingers underneath the rock. Because you never know what lurks beneath, right? There are dangerous creatures down there, they can bite you, they can sting you, and the last thing you want to do is to stick your finger underneath. So whenever you lift a rock, only handle the rock from visible sides. And that means you need to, and if you are handling it, it's always good to wear gloves, maybe wear boots, maybe long pants, and just be prepared. Now, another thing that helps you prepare with this type of thing is to look around. Look around what happens around the rock you're trying to talk. Do you see, understand the context, right? Understand whatever goes around the ecosystem where this rock lives. Because when we're out in the field and trying to debug a system which is live and running, any change we actually do to this system might have significant repercussions on us and on our users, right? So we need to understand the ecosystem before we actually touch it, before we manhandle it, before we interfere with it. And for this, usually the ideal thing is to try and reproduce the situation offline. This is not always the case, but again, this is much easier than actually trying to tackle the problem live. Now, one of the ways we do that is to be prepared. So when we're building our system, we introduce things like logging that has so that when we encounter a bug, we can, for example, increase the logging level to such a way that we can get diagnostic information from this live system. Right? Similarly, it's very helpful to insert some kind of self-diagnosis. So because a lot of systems are not just a device running somewhere which is unreachable. It's even worse. It might be, as is the case, for example, as a space probe, it might be hundreds of thousands of systems running, or some server on multiple servers serving hundreds and thousands of users. Right. So now, the second rule that I teach my children, and I hope to teach you, is never lift the rock towards yourself or others. So, because you never know what's down there, and you never know what's going to jump. And that means we have to look around, not just at the context or the ecosystem of our system. We have to see how anything we do to this rock is going to affect the surrounding, is going to affect the people who are with us, is going to affect our users, is going to affect our system. Because sometimes maybe we can fix a small bug that we found, but if we didn't think it deeply enough and thoroughly enough, this can have repercussions much larger than the original bug, right? So we might consider having a mirroring system, trying to isolate. I know in the old mainframes there was an option to actually run two systems in parallel mirroring each other, so you could actually mess with one without hurting the other one. And another common thing somebody mentioned here earlier is having your system, when you are touching these kind of systems, having some kind of a terminal interface. Some kind of maybe a Lua, a scripting engine that allows you to introspect your system without actually touching the running code. Now, in the cases where you don't have this option, there's still something called this is something very common in gaming systems. And there's, I think, a commercial product called Live++, which allows you to hot load DLLs while your system is running. So you can actually have your system running, actually compile the code into a new executable and get the system hot patching it live. But again, these are dangerous things. You have to come prepared, you have to come well dressed, and remember, quick fixes are much more dangerous here. Because maybe they work, but now they have a ripple effect. They might make the system unmaintainable down the line. They might make it refactoring extremely difficult later if things begin to depend on your small fixes. So remember, when you're touching a live system, be prepared. And the last rule that I teach my kids is that always return rocks to their original position. Because bugs are people too. We disturb them and we want them we want to leave them alone. Now, when we're writing software, the bugs we're bug hunting and we don't want to leave them alone. But we can learn something for this. And this is, when we fix the bug, we want to clean up after ourselves. Right? We want to write unit tests that check for any case where this might manifest itself again. Sometimes a single bug opens up the possibility of understanding many additional failure conditions that we haven't considered originally. We want to refactor the code in such a way to make such cases maybe impossible to happen, or at least easily detectable. And last but not least, we want to document whatever we did, and maybe document this whole region of the product so that when we come to it later, or our colleagues come to it later, 4 years down the line, it's much easier to understand what we're doing. Right? So, to summarize, when you're in the field, don't forget these 3 very simple rules, but very important rules. Never stick your fingers underneath the rock. Never flip the rock toward yourself or others. And always return the rock to its original position. So go and teach this to your kids and your colleagues. Thank you.